Humans of the cardboard, welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today we've got another Yu-Gi-Oh video for you. This time we are doing a tier list for the October 2022 ban list. We are tiering out all the winners and losers off of this list. I think there's a handful of them that we can talk about for sure. And as you can see, the way we have our category sectioned out, we have big winner, so like big like step forward for those decks. Winners, just like a little something, but maybe it's not like that crazy. Same, nothing changed for them. I'm not just gonna put stuff that wasn't hit, but you'll see there's gonna be some other instances on there. Losers, just like a little bit of a hit to them, but nothing crazy. And then big fat losers, like really brutal hits to certain decks there. But yeah, without further ado, let's just jump into this thing. Not going hit by hit, let's just go category by category, or not even category, but like picture by picture. So let's start off with True Draco. To me, I believe that True Draco is the same. The difference between, I believe, it went from Dynamite Knight went from 2 to 3 is almost negligible, especially since I believe most True Draco lists wouldn't even play 3 Dynamite Knight if they had it. The deck definitely has one of those situations where you want to play enough monsters to see like one monster, but like you never want to see more than one monster. And Ignis is already really good. Some people will opt to play Majesty's Maiden as well, at like 1 or 2, because it gets you to the other guys, but still not necessarily searching you super active resources. So it's whatever. I'm going to put them in same. I really don't think they changed like hardly at all. This is a card that could have come off the list like a year plus ago, multiple years ago probably, but hasn't moved, so good to see. Next up, trap decks. I'm going to give trap decks little winner category. Not big winner, but like a little something. With the ban of, what's that card? Red Reboot. Pretty much every other deck pretty much has one less copy of a card that can like pretty much just like auto win them the duel versus you. Prior to this, I would have just said that like the biggest things you watch out for is 3 copies of Lightning Storm are legal, 3 copies of Evenly Matched are legal, 1 Heartbeast Feather Duster, and 1 Red Reboot. Goes from 8 copies of cards to 7. It's a little something. Not too crazy, but like we'll definitely take it. And to be fair, all the other ones are respondable to. The biggest thing with Red Reboot is it was only respondable with very specific counter traps like Solemn Judgment, or maybe your archetype had a searchable spell and trap negate. Other than that, like you couldn't respond with anything, so it just wasn't. It was like you just, the other ones, at least if you have just a regular negate, Sub-Terrors can negate any of the other ones, but not Red Reboot. So that is a big leg up there. Next up, Frogs. Frogs are big losers. This is not just like a little loss. I know they got Substitute. I don't really think it matters. In the context of Sprite, it's a little different, but as far as like Frogs go, if you are a fan of like Frogs specifically, not just Frogs played in Sprites or other decks, Ronan Tonin was the facilitator. Like this swap was your engine guy to get everything engraved, but without Ronan Toten, I'm just looking at this engine and I'm like, how do you put a second body on the field via the Frog engine in one turn? So unless you're playing with other stuff, other generic like water extenders or something, and you're going into like Coral Anemone or something, I don't know what you're doing with yourself with this deck. I just honestly don't know like where you go with it, because Ronan was the true facilitator to all those, to the ability to like come back every turn over and over and over again. Without that, I just don't know what this engine is really doing by itself. All right, next up, Synchro decks. Synchro decks, big losers. I just have Omega here. It kind of depends. I know you can play a bunch of different styles of these Synchro decks, but I'm just talking about like pure pump out Synchro decks. 2 giant hits here, Halki Fibrax, and the Chaotic Ruler. Just so many generic cards are light and dark, so Chaotic Ruler being a card that can come back, as well as it gets you a free card, and mills that could potentially get you more extendability, is crazy. So from what I hear, like I know it's not a super popular deck, but just like these Synchro Turbo decks that were taking advantage of those cards in that way, pretty freaking brutal for them. These may be the 2 biggest losers on the entire list, honestly, is like these 2. But it's tough. It's tough to see. Spellbooks. I think Spellbook's a big winner. I think there's a few big winners on. There's not a ton of big winners on this list. Spellbooks might be one of them, because I would argue like before Judgment, the deck is like completely unwinnable. Now at least they have like a better win condition. They might be like arguably playable on a low level rogue level, but whatever, they're fine. I don't think Judgment's like that crucial. I just think decks are just going to be way outpowering you most of the time anyway, but it is what it is. It's a nice card for them. I'll put them in big winner just because I would have argued like, well, there's no reason to touch this deck until they get something. They finally got something. There might be a reason to touch this deck if you're a rogue player. Fine. Punk. Punk I would just call a loser. Like, I almost want to put them in big loser. But I'm just going to put them in regular loser. Just losing Chaotic, the Chaos Ruler Dragon is tough. Like all of their main lines usually want to go through that. And I don't know 100% off the top of my head exactly what other lines the deck has, but I can almost guarantee there are other lines. The deck will be totally fine with this. They didn't lose any actual like engine pieces, so you still got your triple Etel, you got your triple Xiamen. If you're playing a pure list, you've got all the other copies. Like, you have ways to play. You've got extenders to be able to get into some of these still powerful Synchro plays, although Chaotic Ruler was a really strong enabler. Definitely a loser on the list for sure, but I don't think they're dead. I don't think they're big loser at the end of the day, so we'll just leave it in regular loser category. Same thing with Dragon Link. We can kind of throw these kind of together. I still believe you could play this deck as like a super mid-range strategy, especially when the Bisted cards comes out, because you rotate so many resources. You have inherent DD Crows, hand traps / engine cards at the same time, while also maybe just playing a Dragon Link engine that just kind of pumps out spheres, maybe another boss monster next to it, and you're chilling. You know what I mean? That's kind of like the idea there. I think they're going to be fine, especially with Bisted. You know, they lose the Chaos Ruler, but they do get a really strong additional engine to what they have with the Bisteds, which also, if it looks like Tyr's going to be the best deck going forward, those cards are pretty much handmade to respond to Tyr. So that could be a deck that actually has just like a specifically good Tyr matchup, which is nice to have. So yeah. Artifacts. I would call artifacts losers. Not big losers. They're not unplayable anymore. You still have Sanctum. You can still play Scythe. You can still make Dagda and set Scythe. But one thing I will say is, when we look back to when we were in that really heavy Scythe format a couple formats ago, what were the two main ways people were popping Scythe? It was A, DPE, made off of Verte Anaconda. Verte is not there anymore, so almost no decks in the meta are going to be playing DPE. Or it was Halki Fibrax tagging out into TG Wonder Magician to pop the Scythe. So we can get access to Scythe, but unless you are a very particular deck that has the ability to like quick pop your own card at any moment, I don't think that this card's going to be able to be generically abused in a lot of decks, which is why I was okay that this card didn't get banned on this list, just because with Halt gone, there's not a ton of like generic ways to get access to Scythe and pop it in a turn one setup. It's going to be very particular decks. I still think we might like see it up in very particular decks here and there, but like outside of that, I think this card's not really going to be abused that much because it doesn't have the generic tools anymore. So cool. Heroes. I'm going to call Heroes a winner. Not a huge winner. They just got a third Fusion Destiny, but that's still really good. That engine was 2 awesome cards to draw in 2 copies of Fusion Destiny with 2 bricks in both the Destiny Heroes, which is brutal. Like, I don't want to have as many bad cards as good cards, because if you built a deck that was 20 good cards, 20 shit cards, your deck would be awfully inconsistent and not very good. So kind of helping that out. 3 and 2, you get slightly better, slightly more consistency there. We'll take it. Nothing too crazy. Tier limit. Now this one is weird. Hang with me. I'm going to put tier limit in same. I don't think tier limit really changed that much. I know Fairy Tale Snow is a really big part of what they do. But this is specifically different because of the context of where we are with tier. Okay. I do think losing Fairy Tale Snow takes away a lot of their grind game, their ability to just like not be out of duels because they just have Fairy Tale Snow engraved. It's going to keep coming back. It's going to keep pushing you back. flipping your stuff down so that you can't go for lethal at any time, and then eventually they grind back into the duel. That doesn't happen anymore, as well as the card made them much better against stuff like Dark Ruler no more, because you could Dark Ruler their board, but they'd have Snow for one, maybe multiple triggers. They'd have Solic, and they would just have like still 2 to 4 interruptions just outside of what was on field getting Dark Rulered. Now they are much more painfully hit by Dark Ruler, which is nice to see. As far as the context goes, next month, we are literally 3 months away from Darkwing Blast. When we get Darkwing Blast, they get some very nice cards for them as well. I believe like the Spell is one of the best ones, and they also get a new Trap that's pretty good, and it's seen a good amount of play in the OCG. Then I believe a month after that, maybe a month and a half, somewhere around there, month and a half, we get Magnificent Mavens, and they get the Ishizu cards. And that is still going to be 2 to 2.5 months. So, like, that will all happen before another ban list would even be possible. And look at this one. We were supposed to get a ban list like 2 months ago. And now we're doing this. If they wait that same amount of time next format, we're going to be at tier post Ishizu cards, you know, for a whole format's worth, 3 whole months at least. So I believe that losing Snow does not outweigh getting the new cards in Darkwing Blast, as well as the new Ishizu cards in Magnificent Mavens, and I believe this card will be even better than it was right now prior to Snow. So I think, sure, you have to wait 3 weeks of this deck being a little bit worse, but I think after Darkwing Blast, it may be legit the same power, and then, or maybe even a little bit better. And then at the end, you know, and then by Ishizu, it's like by far the best deck in the game. So I think, if anything, this deck could almost be considered a winner because it didn't get axed harder, especially since Sprite did get hit harder. But yeah, I'm going to leave it in same for now, just, you know, to pretty much say, yeah, this was a hit, but like, not really. They're getting support that's going to outweigh way more than what Snow was giving them, in my opinion. So there you go. Sprite. I think Sprite's a regular loser here. Losing as easy access to Totally Awesome is pretty big, as well as losing access to as good of follow-up as they had before. Definitely hurts, but it's not the end of the world. They can still make Toad, or you can pivot into another lane if you want to go for the Runic Sprite and play like the Hyperia. That's definitely another route. There are ways. The deck will be fine. Without hitting the Sprite engine, you're good. You're also getting Sprind in the next core set in Darkwing Blast, which definitely opens up some other things with like the Nimble engine, able to facilitate getting more bodies on field. The Sprites will be fine. I think they'll be a solid deck. They definitely lose some power because Toad insulated you from a lot of like scary things. But, you know, you're not they're still decent. I think they'll be fine enough. They grind well, all that stuff. They'll be good. Tron, small winner, nothing huge, just Ben 10 from 2 to 3. Nice consistency piece for them, as well as like just having access to multiple Ben 10s, not being once per turn. Absolutely broken. Trickstars, same thing, going from 2 light stage to 3 light stage. Big consistency boost for them. They were at like 5 starters for so long. Now they're at 7. That's actually a respectable little number there. They're cool. I would love to see actually a new Trickstar support card. I just want to see them get like a Link 2 or a Link 3 that's like a good interruption, and that's it. Like so that it feels like their engine actually gets you to something that hinders your opponent. Right now, all it gets you to is like Reincarnation, and if you don't have Droll, it's like really not even doing anything like to your opponent. So, bleh. Dogmatica, again, same thing, right? Nadir goes from 2 to 3. Fine, nice little boost to consistency. That is the true power card of the archetype. It's kind of the same, more closely related to Fusion Destiny, going from 2 to 3 for this one, for sure. And the last one I'll say is Adventure. We'll throw Adventure right here in the same category. I'm kind of surprised, not overly surprised that they didn't get hit. It's not like they are super prevalent in the format right now. But I do think it is worth noting that Adventure has seen a big dip in play over the last format overall, and I do think the hit to Sprite, making Sprite worse, as well as the hit to not only hitting Sprite, but hitting Frogs, which a lot of times ends up being their best normal summon. So maybe you play a Sprite variant without a normal summon. Maybe Adventure Sprite kind of comes back into the fray a little bit here. Or just other variants, because now Sprite's a little bit worse. Technically, Tier's a little bit worse. We'll see how long that lasts and how they really look as we get new sets. But I think Adventure could see an uptick in play here, just because everything else around it has gotten worse, and this is just a particular engine that I think we all still agree is a really powerful engine and has great utility, it just has been not super favorable compared to those two decks that have kind of been taking over the format. So we'll see. This could definitely almost arguably be a winner. I mean, we'll see if like those top two decks got hit hard enough to make Adventure a lot more playable. But I think it'll just see a little uptick in play here, just because it's just better relative versus like the rest of the format. So there we go. Pretty cool. Those are the winners and losers for the ban list. I'm sure there's some other things that also somewhat got affected, but I either felt they weren't that necessary to talk about or whatever. But if you want to mention them, please throw them down in the comments down below. If another deck you know of or like yourself has been affected over this past ban list. But there you go. I guess I'm excited for the new format. I mean, not a ton changed, but I do have a new spicy deck I'm about to test out, so stay tuned for that. It may be the coolest variant of Sprite you've ever seen, so keep your eyes peeled on that front. But I will see you in the next video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. As always, subscribe to the channel if you have not yet and you want to see more stuff from your boy down the line. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.